Podcast with our host, Scott Smith. Scott, what's going on, man? How are you?
Hey, Neil, I'm fantastic. We got a great guest today.
I know. I'm
Very, very
excited.
excited,
It's
Mr.
just very niche, very intriguing. Go ahead with our guest.
Yeah, so we have Clay Purdy. Clay, you started Rascal USA. Am I saying that right?
You got it.
We're going to talk a little bit about that today. How are you today?
Terrific. I'm doing well. Thank you. And thanks a lot for having me, gentlemen. This is the first time I've been on one of these. So this is pretty
Really? Oh
cool.
my gosh. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Awesome.
Probably the first of many to come.
Okay.
We'll see.
All right, so I'm going to dive in, have some questions, and we'll just see how things go. So, what inspired you to start Rascal USA?
Okay. All right. First of all, I've been in the advertising agency business. It's kind of scary to say, like 40 years. I started at a wonderful shop here in Chicago, Leo Burnett Company. A great training ground. Worked on some amazing global brands. You know, I launched Altoids in the U.S., M&M Mars, McDonald's, Pillsbury. So, you know, I really cut my teeth at a wonderful place. And, you know, as I've gone, you know, through the business over the years, um, you know, I've worked on a bunch of businesses. But anyway, I was out for lunch with a writer who I worked with. His name is Greg Oreskovich. He's now a partner. And we were kicking around brainstorming ideas. And, you know, I've had this consultancy and we're talking about how we're going to get some business. And we came to this idea that, you know, really, the baby boom generation, or think of it as, you know, like we think of it more as adults 50 plus, but is a huge opportunity for advertisers and more importantly for clients to get business. And it is well, there's three main reasons for this, right? This is where the population is, like 70 million of them, and those are boomers. And then this is really where the money is. Like, you know, this generation's sitting on like $70 trillion or something ridiculous like that. But the generational wealth is amazing. And agencies don't give a shit about us. And the reason is they're largely staffed with young people who don't understand our generation, because they haven't walked in our shoes, right? They don't understand the cultural threads that bind us. They're not rewarded for work against this demo because um, this isn't what the agency world celebrates, right? If you think about the awards, the Clios, the Con, and all this stuff, it's all this hip happening, cutting edge stuff. And that's not really what's going to connect with this audience. So agencies don't really care about this group, and if they do decide to go after it, they don't have the folks to deliver because they're all just really so young. I mean, I can tell you right now, if I walked into a conference room at an agency right now, it's like, what the hell is this guy doing here? They really would.
You hit the nail on the head that the wealth is in the 65 and older
It
group.
really is.
And there's
Yeah.
70% of the United States wealth that's the number, 70%.
Yeah.
So you're looking in the wealth is in that age, but yet they don't market to them at all. They never
No,
market unless you're talking about pharmaceuticals. There's no
correct.
marketing or specific stations. Maybe CBS really does go to a more of an older audience than the broadcast channels, but really all they're marketing to is pharmaceuticals. And
Yeah.
and you might see it starting to Fox News, or starting to see a little bit that they're figuring out the people that are watching are an older population. But ultimately your job is to say, hey, I'm this ad agency. I know that your product needs to be marketed to the right people, and you're missing out. You're missing out on a
Yeah.
lot of revenue.
100%. And I mean, we all know that the media world has just gone into fragmentation, right? And with all the digital and programmatic and social and on and on and on. But here's the thing about this audience, right? We're still reachable. We still watch TV. We still listen to the radio. And if we want to know something, we happen to go on Google and search. So, it's like very tough to get a hold of a, late teen, young adult, and reach them effectively. We're just like you said, watching Fox News, watching CNN. And what do you see? It's a bunch of farm up largely, which I will also add is horrendous, the farm advertising. Now they've got a lot of, legal restrictions and restraints and regulations and stuff they got to deal with, but holy smokes, man. That's a hurting segment that frankly we don't even want to touch. But if you think about like financial services, travel and hospitality, over-the-counter healthcare products. Anyway, it goes on and on. I mean, automobiles, McDonald's, fast food. Who's populating McDonald's between breakfast and lunch? Who's populating McDonald's between lunch and dinner? They've got this dead period,
Yep.
And I know the CMO of McDonald's, and I talked to him about that. Oh, we're dedicated to the, super heavy users, and they're 24 years old, and blah blah blah.
They're
But
looking at numbers versus what's happening, and I'm going to go right back to Scott on this after this, is the fact is people, let's say these people that say, I got millions of followers and millions of likes, but no sales. It's because you're not marketing to the right people. You might as well get 10, 20 likes, but they're all the ideal customers for you. That's a much better deal. And that's the missing component that we've come today. We've gone back to this market to everyone, see what sticks radio mentality in social media, which is crazy. And then you have a bunch of broke people who you're marketing a product to or a high ticket item on social media and say, look at me, I'm an influencer. No one's buying. That's my point. So I think you're seeing it specifically enough in the fact that they're all looking at numbers versus conversions.
Yeah, I was just going to say the agency world is all caught up in what's called performance marketing, which is what you just said is clicks and views, which doesn't mean
traffic.
Shit. It doesn't mean shit. What we learned in our early days that is still true today, people buy with their hearts. It's emotion. And they justify that purchase with the functional stuff. But what's really the opportunity is emotion and connecting with this audience on an emotional level. And that requires insightful, thoughtful, interruptive, surprising work that's going to get their attention. And you can do it, but it's not about, clickbait and that kind of stuff.
So let's talk about that a little bit more for a second, guys. So you're trying to overcome stereotypes, right? And so you have to approach things differently. And you have challenges when you're trying to hit this older generation, this baby boomer generation.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do differently? Let me rephrase this. What is your differentiator? How do you hit them differently than a traditional ad agency would hit them?
Yeah. Well, I think in a word, our work will honor this audience. Okay. And what I mean by that is we want to be respected. We don't want to be seen as old. I think that the work has to be aspirational then, but not in an unrealistic way. And really importantly, insightful. I gotta say, there's one campaign out there right now that is like right on, and I don't think that the agency, I think it was Arnold in Boston that did it, intended it, but I'm sure you've seen Progressive Insurance work, this Dr. Rick stuff, right?
Yes.
I mean, the insights in that, the guy cleaning the garbage can, but we can laugh at ourselves with this, right? I mean, barbecue etiquette, talking about the weather, but it's surprisingly insightful, and I don't think it's even intended for us because it's about don't be like your parents or whatever. But yet it hits a sweet spot with us. And I think that's what it's about, human insight, Scott. And it's finding those insights for a product, whether it's toothpaste or fast food or whatever it is, that are able to connect authentically with this group.
So are you working
and not pander. I mean, there's so much pandering, and
Yeah.
and you can't pander.
So are you looking for specific products with your agency that you can market to the older generation? How does Rascal
How's
work?
that work? How do you go about getting new
Yeah.
business? You know,
Yeah.
the short answer is it's really hard. Because, you know, I just went down a list, whether it's financial services, hospitality, you know, retirement communities like the villages, or, you know,
Yeah.
whatever. Getting through the first problem is getting through to the excuse me, the decision makers. You know, email is tough. Nobody's answering their phones, right? And unless you have a really good referral or something like that, it's really tough to break through. If you do break through, a lot of the problem is that they're, you know, 32 years old and they don't give a shit. You know, they don't want to hear about it. They don't understand it. That's not cool. That's not what my agency wants to do. And so it's tough, and it's going to be you know, we're pretty new at this. You know, we haven't been around less than a year, and but we do think it's a real opportunity that at some point is going to catch on. And you know, Neil, what we need is just one. That's all it takes, right? Is one company to take a risk and say, oh yeah, let's try something. Let's try to do something smart. And you do some great work, ad age features that the client gets good results, and then it's just like starts to steamroll.
So I'm hoping this will end up in front of some ad agency head, and they'll see it as I think the three of us collectively call them out for not targeting us, right?
Yeah, right.
So, I mean, and let's just be honest. So you want to be, you know, I guess more inspiring. You want to connect with that older generation.
Yeah.
And it feels like they're missing an opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
a significant opportunity with all of that money. And the whole point, if I understand it correctly, as somebody who's been marketed to his entire life, of advertising is to get people to buy.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, right?
Right.
So,
Yep.
so they're missing the boat on that. And it feels like you're onto something that I think is inspirational. I mean, I think it's absolutely inspired for you to focus on that, Clay. And I congratulate you for focusing in on that because of your experience and because of your knowledge and your understanding. So, all that said, how do you make an advertising I can't even say it right. How do you make an advertisement? How do you make it engaging and relevant to the audience that you're trying to attract? And then how do you get these companies to recognize that this is where they need to focus?
Okay. So that's the last thing you said is the first thing you need to do is get them to focus, right? And say, okay, I'm willing to take a run at this, and let's see what happens. And so they hire us, and what we do is, you know, I mean, basically, we have a really talented team of creative folks, right, who've been doing this a long time, who are of this generation, and we probably would do a little bit of research around the product and how it fits into, you know, folks' lives and how they're using it, and, you know, their perceptions of it, and so on and so forth. But we would develop work, and you know, and probably gets researched, and, you know, produce it. I mean, it's like, that's the way the business works, right? I mean, but you've got to find a client who's willing to take a run at it and a risk. And to a lot of them, it is a risk. You know, here's this young upstart agency with a completely new approach to this target audience, and oh my God, and what's, you know, procurement going to say, and what are my peers going to say, and you know. So you're up against all that in these big organizations. So but it is, to your point. I mean, this is like the no-brainer of the century. You know, and it's not going to cost a whole lot to do this stuff, you know. But it's got to be, you know, like we're committed to doing authentic, insightful work that is respectful and honors this audience.
Okay.
And we don't want to be seen like a bunch of old farts.
This is such an intriguing thing, Scott. Any other questions you have for Clay before we have to say goodbye? But I definitely, we got to find out where we can find info on him.
Yeah, so let's find that out. Clay, if you have any parting shots, advice that you would want to give to anybody out there, maybe who wants to be involved in something like this, or just anything else that you want us to know about Rascal, about you, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, we've got a Rascal. You can reach us. Our site is rascalusa.com. I'm really easy to reach, Clay at rascalusa.com. And we are happy to talk to anyone and talk them through, you know, some ideas and costs and budget and how they might go about this. It's as simple as just reaching out because we're around. We have 3 principals in the business, but we have a big bench of folks. There are a lot of amazing agency creative folks that are out there that are hungry to do work because the agencies won't hire them. And they're sitting there and they're chomping at the bit to get involved and do great stuff. And, you know, these are folks that have done amazing campaigns, Super Bowl, Clio's, Effies, and you name it over the years. Amazing bench. So all it is a simple contact and we'll talk to you and talk through some ideas.
All right. We appreciate it, Clay. Great stuff, right, Scott?
Absolutely fantastic.
All right.
Neil, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. All right. That's a special simulcast of the Neil Haley Show and the Business Spotlight podcast.